If I could just figure out why, maybe it would stop hurting. Was it me? Was I enough? Did he ever love me? These are the things that women say to me over and over again, and they're often the things that you are replaying in your head in every conversation, every glance, every tiny moment in your life, trying to make sense of why they had an affair. And it can feel like you're losing your mind. Because when a affair is discovered, the need to understand why can be quite obsessive, like really obsessive, because you want answers, because you feel that if you don't have them, life feels way too chaotic and unbearable. I am sorry to say, but the brutal truth is, and the uncomfortable truth is, that often there are no clear answers, not any explanations that really make it feel better, and sometimes the explanations make it feel way more painful. And the reasons that you do get, oftentimes do not satisfy you at all. I've spoken to thousands of women who have gone through a partner who's had an affair, and this is a big sticking point for them. And I've heard the outcomes of when they find out why and how it doesn't really help. Our brains are really designed to get a lot of certainty in life. So our brains do not like chaos or uncertainty at all. And when everything we believe to be our truth and our reality shatters in front of us, our mind scrambles to try and work out what the hell the story means and make sense of what's going on. A story where someone or something causes it, um, can leave you feeling quite helpless, where somebody else has done something that shattered the story that you have, and it's not of your doing. Affairs often are not just acts of betrayal. I mean, if it was just, hey, you cheated and there were words, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But it's, a partner's desperate attempt to maybe reclaim parts of themselves that they'd lost over time. Maybe they believe with their whole hearts that this was the only choice they had for many reasons. Maybe they were chasing feeling alive again, or maybe their identity was at risk, or maybe they felt like they didn't have freedom anymore. Those are things that you have little to nothing that you can do about. Those are internal stories of your partner. And as painful as they are, there's nothing you could have done that would have made those feelings any better for them. Sometimes people have affairs because they're emotionally really immature. Sometimes they refuse to face the fact that they need to grow up and need to be responsible. Either way, regardless of why they chose to have the affair, it's not about you being inadequate. It's not about you and how you were. It's about them and their decision making. It's about their inability to manage their own internal chaos. We have choices. We can choose not to have an affair and instead talk to our partner about what's going on, or get help with what's going on, or deal with some of the stuff. The fallout for you, your mind, and what's going on for you, the traps that you might get into, maybe around, he's really bad and I meant nothing to him, or there's something about me that wasn't good enough and that's why he did it. And both of those things, both of those ways of viewing what's happening, both of them are untrue, but also they're not helpful. They're going to keep you really stuck. You can seek to understand what happened. You might want to understand what it's about, but you know there may be just many excuses you're going to hear, and making sense of what happens might be helpful, but it doesn't mean that it's then okay. Just because we make sense of it and go, oh, I can understand why they chose to do that, doesn't mean that it is okay that they went ahead and did it. Heartbreak floods our brains with chemicals that trigger really obsessive behaviors, a lot of confusion, a maddening fixation on somebody else, because we wanting desperately to make sense of it. So our brains get hijacked. The neurochemical storm that hijacks us and our nervous system is literally a triggered state of fight, flight, or freeze. And that's why we might keep going around and around and around with the why. Why did they do this? Why now? Why that person? It's not habitual. It's actually your nervous system trying to settle itself, trying to find a safe place in all of the chaos that's going on. Because without emotional safety, of course, we do not feel like there's any clarity. There's no calm. There's no peace for us. It's why it's so hard to think clearly when you get this enormous shock that my partner went and had an affair. How did that happen? It isn't a mindset. It's not kind of snap out of it and you'll be right. That isn't how it works, because your body is doing what it needs to do because it feels like it's actually under threat right now. So while you are busy desperately chasing the why, trying to force answers with a partner can really deepen the wounds with them. And you risk trapping yourself in this churning over self blame or fury that just seems to have a life of its own now. Replaying scenes, replaying conversations you've had, thinking through every tiny detail. And the obsessiveness can be really exhausting and a bit scary. Often why they choose to do this, why they did this now, why they lied to you is really multi-layered. It can be quite contradictory, or there may be no actual answer at all. Many women have said to me, I keep asking, they say, I don't know. That isn't helpful. When we're searching for whys, that can feel really unhelpful. But it's also really important to take a minute and know that maybe you will never know what really went wrong inside of him. Maybe you will never know what is going on in his heart and mind. Maybe you're never ever going to know whether he really truly loved you in the way that you needed him to. And in that unknown space, it can feel really terrifying. But learning to sit with it, learning to make space for it without trying to fill it up with a lot of noise and what could be false certainty is where you start to heal from what's gone on. It might seem, like, hey, Debbie, what the hell do you mean sit with it? It's about making space for all the feelings that come up. It's about allowing all the stuff to be there. Because healing really begins when you stop chasing the reasons behind why and start turning inward towards yourself with a lot of self-compassion and trying to find clarity for yourself. Ask yourself some questions. Who am I outside of this betrayal from my partner? What parts of me have I ignored or have I silenced to keep our relationship going? What boundaries do I need to set with him? What boundaries do I need to set with myself? And what do I need to do with the boundaries around the story I've been telling myself about this relationship? He may very much want to be forgiven, in fact, push for forgiveness and really want you to hurry up and get it done. But before any of that can start, you need to offer yourself some self-respect, to reclaim your peace, to not figure out what his reasons were, but to reclaim yourself in this story. Who am I in this story, this relationship with this person at this time? Excuse me. So some ways to do that without spiraling out of control are to get grounded in the present moment. Women always say to me, oh my God, what do you mean grounded in the present moment? I mean, be right here, right now, sitting in your chair. Is it warm in the room? Is it cool in the room? How do your feet feel on the floor? Are your shoulders aching? Is your jaw tight? Where am I in this present moment? When I'm sitting inside my own body, looking around myself, what can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I touch? What can I taste? This brings our bodies back in alignment with our minds, and we get back into being where we are right now. Maybe you could write a couple of letters. Maybe the first letter is asking him all the questions that you want to have answered. And maybe you never ask him and you never send it, but you write every single question down. And then maybe you write a second letter to yourself, with truth and strength and compassion and the things that you would tell a lovely, beautiful friend of yours who was going through something very similar to this. You need to name the emotions, all of them, look underneath the grief and the confusion and the shame and the fear and start to think about, how do I feel about what's happened here without judgment, without judgment, to just go, these are the feelings. They're not good or bad. They're just the feelings that I've got. Be extremely self-compassionate because your brain is trying to heal from the traumatic experience of having somebody you love wound you in this way. And be so patient with yourself. This is going to take some time. I really strongly advise any person who is in a relationship with somebody who has cheated, had an affair, to not try and do this on their own. If you have trusted friends who don't take sides but are there to hear you and hold space for you, they're good people to be around. Get involved with a coach or a therapist who can really help you as you try and work through all of the feelings. I need you to understand that closure is a bit of a myth, because with closure, we kind of depend on another person to give it to us. And sometimes we are going to have to create our own sense of closure. We have to make meaning of what's happened. We have to find peace with what's happened, not because we're forgiving them and we're letting them off the hook, but because we want our lives back. We don't want to be so hijacked. Healing doesn't come from apologies or perfect explanations. If somebody does something over and over again, in fits and starts, then you're going to feel really uncertain. And so trying to work out, how do I manage that? What do I do if my life is around, maybe another person who's just not consistent for me? Ask yourself, what do I need to tell myself today? Even if the why of this situation is a mystery to me, how do I bring closure to myself? How do I help myself? How do I be gentle with myself? Chasing answers can really keep us stuck in a lot of strong emotion, and moving through this process will take longer if we get stuck. Sometimes the why is really messy. Sometimes it's completely missing, and it forces us, to make things worse. It forces us to a situation of things just not feeling like they can move forward. Real healing begins when we stop looking for peace inside of him and what he has done, and starting to turn towards ourselves for clarity and self-respect. It is really important as you move forward to start to start to look after yourself and understand where you're at and what's important to you. In the next video, we're going to change our focus to her, the woman who bothers you a lot. Some of your obsessive thoughts about who she is, if you don't know. If you do know who she is, the comparisons you might have between you and her, and the mental spiraling that you can do about the woman he cheated on you with. We're going to unpack why your brain fixates on her and how to stop making her a big part of this story. I know you're going through an awful lot right now. There is a free booklet that comes with this series if you'd like to grab it. The link is down in the description. Also, I have a chat each Thursday on my YouTube channel where you're allowed, not allowed, but where you can come along and you can ask me questions if you'd like to, or you can just listen if you prefer. This is a 12-part series, so the playlist will be linked up here. Just click on that and you can watch all of the series, or just wait and the video should roll over onto the next one. I also have a little Surviving an Affair booklet that you can purchase from my store if you'd like it. And if you would like to have some more support, perhaps a one-on-one session with me, then you're more than welcome to put that in the comments and I can send you through the link. Please know that this is a crazy process. Know that it's not like anything you've ever experienced before, and so you can't expect to move through it the way you've moved through other things in life. Be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.